coming off announcing these the winners here, are the winners special to you in any way? I'm just kind of curious, not to racially profile.
Oh, you're so funny. It's this funny, strange like thing about acting, right? It could feel so impersonal, right? It could feel very, very much of this thing out there, and I just got to do my best. And then the other side of it is very personal, right? It's something where we put all of ourselves into what we do, who we are, the characters that we inhabit. And I'm in awe that there's a film like Everything Everywhere All at Once, which takes on themes that are traditionally not spoken about in the Asian communities and culture. And this is a big deal for me personally because, I don't, one, I'm neurodivergent, I'm on the spectrum, I don't fit into the box of Chinese families. And so that's been a pain point growing up, and to this day, I'm always like, oh, my mom's like, why did you get put into Shang-Chi or, the Crazy Rich Asians? And I'm like, probably because I'm just weird and not Asian in the way that Asian people want me to be. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like,
You're crazy.
Like yeah, I am crazy. I am. I can play crazy very well, Never want an Asian Joker. So it's incredible because this has been a long journey. And when I started out, there were no lead roles for Asian people. Forget about it, right? Like, I mean, I walked into my agency and she was like, my first agent was like, oh, there's not going to be a lot of roles or breakdowns for you. And I was just lucky. I booked my second audition ever. And I got Taft-Hartley into SAG, and this was in 2004. So that's been my journey. And then after that, it was like, oh my God, like, how am I going to act in this industry? Like, there's, if I was the only Asian person sitting in an audition room in a callback, it usually meant I booked it because I was going to be the token Asian character in that commercial, is where most of the stuff I've been able to do. They need somebody who looks Asian. So,
right. How frustrating that must be. Like, I mean, through the years we've had, TV shows that, and movies, of course, but it's usually the stereotypical, it starts with, I guess Bruce Lee, who was a big star, movies. Yeah. And then we had David Carradine in Kung Fu, but he wasn't Asian, as it turned out. Right. And then you just, jump to, there was the Joy Luck Club, here and there, but it's been a while since we've had this sort of, it was Crazy Rich Asians, and that's where things sort of, the tide sort of changed a bit. Did you feel, at least from that movie, there was some good fallout?
Oh yeah, I mean, there was a moment where Chris Payne, who plays my brother on As We See It, we were on set, we're like, can you imagine, we are two Asian leads in a show? Like, that's unheard of. That would have been like, what? So I'm so, I'm lucky that all of this is coming to fruition. Something else too, we were talking about, well, I also think, I mean, for me personally, when we see themes of television, movies, whatever, when we see themes that aren't historically taken on in this light, I mean, some of the films I could think of when I grew up and saw myself, I was like, oh, Saving Face. Oh my God, thank God Joan Chen did that role, right? Because these are the things that in the Asian families and culture, that if their grandfather goes out and they watch, like a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, suddenly there's a level of stigma removed, which is also why, for me being like coming out as autistic in something like As We See It was really important, because traditionally anything that was different was wiped from existence, because it was thought of as shaming, right? It's shaming to the family if you have a child who is, gender non-binary, which a lot of autistic people are. We're not quite in any, we're not socially like driven in that sense, right?
Right. Interesting.
So Yeah, it is very interesting. You don't see people like us on TV. You're just like, well, who am I? Where do I fit? I don't fit, which means my family can't have me around, right? Like, I'm not going to be invited to like weddings and Thanksgivings because they don't know what to do with someone like me. So when now you have this film that's becoming very mainstream and a lot of Asian people are going out to watch it, especially the older generations. It was like that storyline with James Hong, incredible, right? And how Michelle Yeoh took that on. Oh, it was like the story of my mom and I, Stephanie Shu. I mean, I'm taking my mom to the Spirit Awards. I'm nominated, which is incredible. But she's going to get to witness. Wow, this is like there's nothing to be shameful about. It's safe to love your child, accept your child, bring them, and introduce them to the rest of the family. Like
Right. That
that.
storyline imagery obviously is so powerful. People forget that we had a president who was,
Yes.
catapulted to the presidency based on, fame as a reality show host, and so TV and movies have such again, a power to shape perception, and if they don't reflect reality, then we're in trouble. And your show, congratulations on your nomination, by the way. And
I have to say thank you. Thank all the critics that are watching because really I'm well aware each and every one of you put me there with my nominations and I'm super grateful. So thank you. Thank you
yeah,
for
and
reaching out.
you are funny, but you're also it sounds trite, but you're real, and that comes across. And that's what I guess the independent spirit is about, and hopefully what we're about, our critics group, and so. Well, how did you get to this place? You how did you land the series, and how did you first of all, how did your family get to America?
Mm. Um, so I was born and raised in Los Angeles, which is interesting because a lot of the roles that I auditioned for, in my younger days, I had to put on an accent, like basically a fake Asian accent. Grown-ups too. I got a call back for that, and I literally recorded my mom speaking the lines, so I could try my best to put an accent on. I think Lucy Liu was the first Asian actress I saw that didn't have to do that. She was American, right? She was like, which I mostly identify with because when I travel to Asia, like China or anywhere else, people they're like, "What are you? You're definitely not Chinese, China." So it's a strange kind of confusion around identities, and it's fun to see that on screen. I remember Better Luck Tomorrow. That was such a cool film because you had like Asian actors who were also like Asian but American, and it was interesting to watch that. My family came to, let's see, my family lost the war in China. They were on the other side. They weren't the communists. And so all of that side got shipped to, they escaped. Basically, they were refugees. They went to Taiwan. So, and then from there, my dad came to the United States, studied aerospace. My mom worked in aerospace eventually as well. I have this whole family of aerospace engineers, rocket scientists, which explains a lot about being on the spectrum because it's a thing, like engineering families. It's insane. So,
I
and
wouldn't
then
want to
they had me.
stereotype, yes, but I've known some engineers in my life.
Yeah, they're quite quirky and like they're strange, right? There's
Well,
like my dad was
they're
strange.
and focused,
Hmm.
sort of
Yeah,
in their own
yeah,
world in a way.
yeah. I love space. I mean, I'm a space fanatic, so I get it. I have special things that I'll just like be like, oh, I just want to spend a day of my life in this. Yeah.
Well, maybe you will be doing a space movie. A space movie. That
Oh,
sounds silly, but
hopefully
are
we'll
you a
see.
sci-fi fan?
I'm a huge sci-fi fan. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally, because in the pandemic, we didn't go to any movie theaters. So the first movie that I saw back was the Warner Brothers Dune. and it was a screening, a special casting directors screening. I think Francine Maisler, I could be wrong. And I went, and I was like, within the first few seconds of the shots opening, I was crying because I was like, it's stunning. He did it. They did it right. They did it justice. It looks like exactly what it should look like. Because I read it and I watched, all the iterations as a child. I think, did David Lynch do a version, right?
Yeah, he did in the, was it the 90s or 80s? I'm terrible.
Yeah. Yes.
So you're a gorgeous
Kyle
nerd.
MacLachlan. That's so cute. You're so cute.
There's got to be a new word for that.
Yeah. There should be a word for a gorgeous nerd.
Yeah. I won't say GERD because that's a tummy bowel syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, that'll be cut out, by the way.
It's so cute. I love it. So cute.
So can you talk about what you're doing now and what your dream, are you going after a certain role that, that everybody else wants, and you're going to, claw your way to the top? How's it going?
You're so cute. I wish I could say I was much more of a clawer. I don't have it in me. I'm not a claw my way to the top type of person. So it's taken a long time. I don't have the inherent narcissism to the degree that you need to really go after that stuff. It takes too much work. So I usually like to let things come to me. But there are fantastic roles. I mean, it's funny because probably like 11, 12 years ago, I had auditioned for the Marvel casting director, Sarah Finn. Absolutely bombed it. I think she was really nice. Sent something to my rep about, oh my God, she has the greatest energy, but I was going in to sign in, and I was so excited, signing in. And then I saw America Ferrera's name above mine, and I was like, what am I doing here? Because she had just come off of Ugly Betty. She was incredible. And I think I went in and I lost all my lines, and I was just like, let me just improv my way through this audition. It was like, so it would be really fun to play kind of like an interesting Marvel superhero, non-hero villain. I actually really like villain roles the best, because I find you have so many more. I mean, you just have so much room as a performer to go into places that you normally can't go, in real life, which is why I loved Violet in As We See It, because there was so much more depth, and the challenges of having to bring her out in such a nuanced way was really incredible to be able to take on, right? It was like, wow, this is amazing, because I can bring places of myself that I really relate and dive really single focusedly into that. Because I remember watching Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker. It blew me away, just blew me away. It was a very grounded, realistic take of I could see a guy like that turning into the Joker. So that's fun. And then obviously Star Wars. Who doesn't want to be in Star Wars? Especially a little nerd like me, space nerd. I would love but I would love to be, a Sith Lord. A Sith Lord is where it's at, right? Or one that, has to battle the darkness. I think that'll be fun. It's sometimes I'm a Jedi, I got this, and then it's the dark wants me. How am I going to, how am I going to overcome that? So that's fun. Yeah. I'll take anything I can get at this point now. I mean, let me just,
Well, maybe,
I don't know if I knocked myself out of the running of things, by coming out as autistic. You're like, oh, people are like, what is this? This is maybe a bad thing. So we'll see.
I don't think so. I think that really bodes, I think that whatever the traits that come with, the people on the spectrum, I would imagine that they're not.
Bodes well for space and fantasy and sci-fi.
Yeah. It's just, I imagine you, just like any good actress or fine actress, knows, memorizes their lines and knows to be there on time, and
yes,
and takes direction and offers some good input, and yeah.
I mean, it's so I love being on set. It's probably the easiest part of life for me, because everything is scripted down to a T, right? I know exactly what words I'm even going to say, right? So it's such a controlled environment. It's so safe for like autistic people to be on set. Everybody's roles detailed out, right? You know who's in charge, there's a hierarchy, you know where to be at what time. It's like knocked out to a T. Like it's fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of fantastic, can you, yeah, I don't know, I just kind of threw this at you, but I don't know if you know too much about our group. I mentioned at the top what we're about. Our movies, our awards go to mainstream and LGBTQ content. Um, uh, can you just say in a few words why you think professional, thoughtful entertainment criticism is good, and why you might think our organization is important? Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I think there's this idea that, people on the outskirts of life, and I identify with the underdog everywhere all the time, right? Because I'm an autistic kid who is Asian growing up in a family, a society where I don't belong in any sense. So when you have a group of people that are trying to seek an identity and establish themselves in the public and fight for rights that are theirs, like me being able to marry my wife and have the same kind of tax incentives or health stuff, insurance, it's huge. It's affecting, my ability to thrive as part of a community. And so, it wasn't that long ago when like gay people were like shot, killed, and you could talk about any minority of humans that were singled out for their differences, right? There's like such a systemic prejudice against different people thriving. So I think it's important anytime we can call out, honor, lift up these minority voices in the world, we're doing good, right? We're doing good. Where historically this hasn't been the case for people that look like me, sound like, whatever, like it's so crazy. We were like sitting there, we're like, I check all the boxes. I don't need to, but it's just they're also interconnected, all at once, everything.